And we are live.
Hey everybody, this is All Things 3D, another beautiful episode. I'm Chris Kopak,
And I'm Mike Balzer.
and today we are starting our new series called 3D in Review, where we talk about news items about anything 3D. And we're just going to run through a few news items that we saw that interested each of us, and hopefully give you a good idea of what's going on in the 3D world.
Sounds great, Chris. You get started.
All right. Well, some pretty exciting ones that I saw this week was so this one's published June 13th. This was by Russia Today. It was the 3D printer was cleared for liftoff to the International Space Station, and it's going to be going up in August. So they have this new 3D printer. Um, and it's pretty exciting to think about that they're shooting this printer up to the International Space Station, and it's going to be, they're going to be able to basically make parts, and fix things unlike they've ever been able to do before. Um, so they're doing extrusion additive manufacturing. So they're going to be able. They're claiming that they're going to be able to build things out of polymers, metals, and other raw materials, is what the article says.
That'll be
Um,
interesting.
yeah, so I don't know exactly. I don't know if we know exactly what the details of the printer. I don't know if those details have been released yet. So I'm kind of waiting to hear even more. I've been looking at researching more articles because it's really intriguing to me to find out. I mean, it's just incredible to think that it's already come this far where they're clamoring to get one on the space station. So pretty cool. So
Yeah,
that
I
was
read a little bit about this too, and one of the things that uh, they're not really sure will occur is the microgravity and how it will affect the extruder itself. So that's one of the tests that they're going to perform. Are we going to get actually a 3D printed object? Are we going to get a bunch of globules of plastic floating around? And maybe they're going to be made out of cornstarch, and then they could eat them. Yeah.
yeah, who knows? Who knows? Yeah, so I thought that was a pretty cool article just talking about that it actually got cleared.
Yeah.
So it's actually
So,
going up in
yeah.
August. I mean, is right around the corner.
Okay, so it will be August.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. So, weather permitting, obviously, these
Yeah.
rocket launches, but they're going to put one up there.
Do you know who's going to be launching it?
SpaceX, of course.
Actually, that'll be cool if they do it.
Right.
Well, well, great, Chris. So it's my turn. So let me go ahead and switch to my item. So we're going to talk about uh, my main source of information is 3ders.org. Give them a shout out. But the thing that I kind of think is neat is because I did an interview with Kit Kat, right? Kat Catlin, there we go, from Shapeways the other day, and she's the lead print engineer. So I thought that was kind of cool that Google is joining up with them to inspire girls to code and 3D print bracelets. So if you go through this article, you'll see that what Google is trying to do is create a little program editor down here that allows you to create objects. So you identify like the diameter, the width, and then what message you want to put on it, and it will create an object, a bracelet in this case, that you can then send to, actually it shows here Shapeways, but I haven't actually loaded the application, but I'm assuming you can probably create an OBJ or an STL file and print it to your own printer. But I think that's kind of neat that they're joining up and trying to get girls doing something other than what girls do, and we all know that a lot of them out there can do great stuff as well. So I think that's kind of cool. And yeah, if you notice this picture here, this guy looking into this printer here, I mean, that's a beast. You think you got an oven there, Chris?
Oh yeah, those EOSint machines. Oh man, I've actually gotten to see some of those machines, at the trade shows, and they're amazing. They really are. And they serve a certain purpose. I think for mass manufacturing a lot of parts at one time, and doing the sintering through sintering, it's a really good way to get them done. And I think that whole front of 3D printing is a whole other side of things. it's really, I think it's going to grow and blossom in its own direction. Whereas FDM and kind of these more the machines like you and I print on, that's going to blossom in its own direction. So we're seeing moves in every direction in this market. So
well, like I'd like to say is that with these type of printers here, if you and 3D Systems is also touting the ability, you create your prototype and then you come to them for what would we call it, small scale manufacturing, and then if you need large scale, then you finally go to injected molded. So it's a stage process that still keeps a lot of the money in your pocket and not a huge outlay of money. But if you're interested in knowing more about these particular printers and what Shapeway's about, go back about 2 or 3 weeks and to my interview with Kat, and she'll tell you all about these printers, why they wear hazmat suits, and everything else. So that's kind of cool. So it's back to you, Chris. You got the next item.
All right. Well, the other one that I wanted to share was I thought this was just fantastic. This is an article on TechCrunch. So you can look at it at TechCrunch and just type in 3D Systems. This was posted on June 17th, so just a few days ago, and it's talking about the future of customized fab-grade 3D printing. So it was 3D Systems, who's another major player in the market.
Yeah, I was just talking about them.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of news around 3D Systems right now. Obviously, one of the forefathers of the 3D printing movement. And they're just staying one step ahead of the game. It seems like. I don't own a machine by 3D Systems, but I'm not trying to plug them in any way. But they really are moving things forward. This video here is pretty interesting. They're kind of showing off. Just here, I'll just kind of play the video.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and they're talking about going from 3D printing as it is now. You're looking at several days or a day to print a few objects, and so they're trying to figure out ways to kind of manufacture more quickly, more customized products. And so 3D Systems is kind of working on this continuous high-speed fab-grade printer, and it uses an assembly line process and kind of gets in, it looks like, and cures the resin. It's a resin-based printer. It looks like maybe PolyJet. Not really sure. Not too many details have been released. Just kind of I'm making assumptions based on the video and what I've read about it. So here you can see it's kind of passing through parts. They're kind of developing it apparently for Google's Project Aura phone, where they need a bunch of customized parts. So
yeah, that's really interesting.
It's a modular phone design. So again, my understanding of it is somewhat limited, but I think it's a cool idea of taking the 3D printing thing and putting it into like an assembly line configuration. It could potentially again be another huge leap for 3D printing.
Yeah, I agree with you. In fact, I saw another video, and I don't know if it was this particular process, but I think they also have an SLA process that they're touting as being very fast. And the video was kind of corny, but it kind of showed an individual going into a building and pretty much saying they can't do this, blah, blah, blah. And each step, they were showing steps of it. And when he came out, he had a handful of these things that were produced in the matter of the time of the video. So it was kind of cool. And another thing about 3D Systems, again, not touting them, but obviously they're in the news everywhere. They're doing a large conference in England right now about 3D in medicine that we just got finished last week talking about. So they're doing their own conference on the subject and how they've actually been supporting it for years now. And they're FDA approved as far as some of their processes, which I think was kind of cool. So I'll run on to my item.
Awesome.
Some of you may have seen this already, and that is the Form 1 Plus. Formlabs just came out with their new upgrade, and just quickly, I'll kind of run the video as well. They are providing essentially the same kind of printer, as you can tell from the original. It looks the same, and well, so essentially this is the Form 1 here, and what's kind of neat about this video is they actually go in and create a nice animated video of what they've actually changed. And as they mentioned, is they've got a new laser in there that's 4 times more powerful, and what that means is that it'll penetrate the resin and harden it much quicker than before. So then they're saying it'll give you twice the performance, or is it twice, or 50% more performance as far as speed. But I think it will also allow you to use new resins that you couldn't use before as well. And then the next thing that they have there is the peeler motor, I guess, has been a problem in the past. And then finally, they've got a new tray that you can just put a cover on it and then store it, because it's made out of the translucent amber, which, as we already know, prevents UV from penetrating it. So now you can just take your resin out of there, put it in a drawer, put in a new resin, and not really have to store it, which is what I'm doing now in a pretty much a storage locker that's isolated from light.
Wow.
So the cool thing here, let me finish up.
Yeah.
The cool thing about this is that the new price is pretty much the same thing as it was last year, $32.99. But if you already have a Form 1, or like I do, you can get this for $800 upgrade, which I think is pretty cool. You know, for 3 items, I think it's a little bit too much. The caveat behind that is that you do have to send them your Form 1 printer, and then they will put in the new parts, and then they'll return it to you. So you're going to be down for about 2 to 3 weeks. I'm trying to narrow down exactly the amount of time. But yeah, it looks pretty cool, and I'm looking forward to that, and which will bring up my next item after yours, which is another SLA printers. They seem to be in the news everywhere. But
that's pretty awesome. Yeah, so especially important for somebody like you that already owns one. That's pretty cool that they're willing to like upgrade your already existing machine, because a lot of manufacturers wouldn't do that. Even in the 3D realm right now, you're not seeing a lot of manufacturers do that. So it's pretty cool that Formlabs is.
Yeah, I was surprised to hear that myself, and yeah, I thought about that, and then as you know, if you remember, we did an interview with Stan Jacoby, who is one of the co-founders of Formlabs, and he got back to me this morning and just kind of identified that, yeah, they were very surprised in the number of people that want to do this. So I'm hoping that I get my upgrade sooner than later. I told them I'd go ahead and do a review on it when it came in. So hopefully I'll get one sooner than later.
Awesome. Cool. So my next news item, my final news item for this week, is I saw this EchoCycle printer was kind of in the headlines because they kind of unveiled some details. will.i.am, I don't know if you're aware, it's a 3D Systems article or news item, and will.i.am, I can't remember, I'm trying to remember where will.i.am fits into the whole, he's a musician, famous musician, and he's the he's now the he's a player in 3D Systems for marketing, and so he's unveiled this new EchoCycle printer. That the goal of the printer is to print specifically PET. So to take plastic bottles, recycle them down, turn them into filament. So you're taking, we're talking billions of tons of waste per year worldwide. PET is a huge problem as far as landfill waste, or we've read all the articles about the giant trash spirals that are islands that are in the ocean now. You have these huge areas where the currents and the fronts meet, and you've just got these massive trash piles building up in the middle of the ocean that are causing all kinds of environmental damage. And part of it is because, especially in the third world, there's no way to recycle. They don't have recycling set up. So the idea behind this is to make a printer that can take a bottle, eventually, and be able to just, pop in some 3D, pop your bottles into, go and collect 3D bottles or whatever, or collect the bottles and then throw them into the 3D printer, and then it starts spitting out parts. So you're actually doing direct recycling, which is pretty cool, because you could be printing, you could be printing most everything probably out of PET.
Well, I think that's responsible. As you're probably aware of already, Chris, we buy this stuff, and even though additive printing is much better than subtractive because you don't have a lot of, what would you call it, excess material that was shaved off of the product. With the additive, you still have a little bit. Plus, if you've got a product that didn't, or an object that didn't print properly, where does it go? In the trash. So, yeah, it would be kind of great to be able to go to a recycling center or even have your own local recycler that you could make your own filament from. So, yeah, I think that's neat. And I wanted to say that you talked about third world countries. We seem to use third world countries as our dumping grounds for a lot of electronics as well. So maybe that's the spur in this, to try and bring things back and do something with them. So
Totally.
pretty cool, Chris. All right, so on to my next item, which is another, as I mentioned, SLA printer. And this is... there we go. Is the, what do they call themselves? The Make One, and that's M-A-K-E, or M1. You can see it right there. Gee, really original there, aren't they? But this is by MakeX, which is a Chinese company, and if you notice, the product looks very similar to another product that we just talked about. Kind of funny, but they say that the build size is larger and it's not laser based. It's a DLP printer. So remember when we were talking to Brad Hill a couple of weeks ago?
Sure.
He said, when they get those Pico projectors out there, we can make these things a little bit smaller. And it looks like that's probably the case here, is that they are using probably a Pico projector.
I love that whole concept behind DLP SLA. Is just I just think that it's just another one of those things that we're going to see blossom and bloom into a whole other, we're going to see spin-offs on all this technology, and we'll look back on this in 10 years and we'll say, wow, like, we had no idea that this is what this would turn into, Yeah.
So getting back to this, this M1, if you notice here, if you're familiar with the B9 Creator, the tray and the plate looks very similar to it. It's kind of interesting. They've kind of borrowed from everything. In fact, they have that nice little button, which is smaller than the Form 1, but almost in the same position. And then here's some examples of their work. And as you can see, it's pretty good.
Definitely.
Pretty good. So you get larger build size, twice the performance. Now, and we're going to talk to a developer of some software for this in the next half hour, but essentially, from my understanding and my experience, the problem with DLPs, if there is one, is that as you increase the resolution, you decrease your build size. And that's probably the big plus behind the Form 1, is that when you increase the resolution, all you do is you increase the time. You don't or decrease your volume size. So that's a good point. But a lot of times you don't necessarily need the high resolution for a larger object. But it's nice to have that. So that's one thing to keep in mind. But it does look pretty nice. I think they have a price down here. I don't know, where was it at? If you go out to their website, I think it's going to be about $1,800, and they're going to be doing a Kickstarter as well. So that's kind of neat. So I've got a couple of more items, Chris, if I can throw them in there. We still got
Why not?
If you don't mind. So the next one, we are about 3D, but who can't resist IMAX? IMAX,
I can't.
What's kind of cool is, I don't know if any of you are familiar with stereoscopic imaging, but essentially what they've had to do before is take large cameras like the Red and literally put two of them together, but they set them up in such a manner that you have to kind of sandwich the two together, and it's a real hassle, and changing lenses is a real hassle because one of them's kind of like at a right angle and it has to go into a mirrored system. So it's really a pain. So IMAX has come out with a new 4K projector that houses two right next to each other, and this way they have these lens systems that they can just pop on and pop off. It also makes it very small. If you look up in the left corner here, you'll see that's the camera there. So they can put these on, I can't think of the name now, but these harness systems and walk around with them. And if you go see the IMAX 3D movie for Transformers: The Age of Extinction, I don't think I'll be going, but
I'm going to have to go now.
they're going to be showing this off for the first time. So there is a little quick video out there, but obviously you're not going to see the true experience unless you go to an IMAX. But I thought that was kind of cool. And then finally, do you remember Aaron Thomas?
Aaron Thomas, which one was he?
He's the guy that developed the Ronin.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we had him on our show. Yeah.
Well, he just emailed me yesterday and sent me some images of his new item, which is called, whoops, oh no, where did it go? Oh. It's called the Mini Ronin.
Oh, I was going to say, it looks like a Mini Ronin. What a cool concept.
Yeah.
So creative guy.
Yeah, he's a creative guy, and he's actually sent me the STLs, and I'm going to print these out on my Form 1. So
he was based in India, right?
Yep, he's in India, and he said he wants a Form 1, but I guess either for some reason they can't ship it internationally. I don't understand that. So he's going to go with somebody else that we interview, and that's the Titan one. He's got one on order. So if you remember that item, it had a lot of strengths as well, so he's crossing his fingers. But if you remember in our interview, I told him if you sent me some STLs, I'd see about printing them. So he did. So we'll be able to actually print a couple of these. So I'll get one of these to you, and maybe you can print one on your Stratus as well.
There you go. That'd be cool.
So kind of neat. So that's about it, unless you've got something else.
No, I think we blew through the news items, and hopefully that gave our listeners a little update, and we'll hopefully see you back next week. Coming up, we have another interview, though.
Yes, we do. But let me mention that even though this is going to be an audio podcast just like previously, don't hesitate to go to our YouTube channel, because all of these now are going to be done on Google Hangouts on air, so they're immediately recorded to YouTube. And I'll add links and so things just like we do in our regular podcast. So if you're interested in what we're talking about but can't see it, you can always go out to YouTube and check it out. And again, we'll have links to everything that we just presented today. So Chris, why don't you wrap it up for us?
All right. Well, thanks for joining us again, and hope to see you next time on another episode of All Things 3D.
Great. Bye.